Hello, everybody. It's Nicholas Pedrasky and Jason Barnett once again.
Hello there, I'm ready to set the world on fire.
And that's just what we're going to do because we're here to talk about a Ruby aggro deck. I know you're all sick of seeing it on the ladder, but here it is again anyway, and we're going to talk about the finer points that go into a wonderful little deck like this. So this is an Angus the Arsonist mono Ruby list. Specifically, we grabbed Yogg's list, who has been performing very well with this archetype. That's YAWGZ, if you want to pull that list off of Hex Meta. But here it is for you. A very simple curve into a very simple finisher. Why don't you tell us of what this deck is trying to do, Jason?
This is the litmus test. So, in every format, there's always an aggro deck that sets the bar at, okay, can you win by this turn or answer the deck by this turn? Because if you can't, you don't have a playable deck. This deck is got a pretty good power boost from some of the recent cards from that we just got here in Hero Fall. The most important two cards are Fireball, which is just hyper efficient. It does have a lot of threshold to it, but it is a very good rate for the cost. And Matriarch of Flames. Matriarch of Flames, absolutely the most important card, and I feel like every single time that you draw this card, you're a strong favorite to win. It's so efficient at what it does, and it works well whether you're playing it on curve, off curve. Having that threat and also having the ability to make burn to the ground, which is oftentimes gonna put your opponent into a losing proposition no matter what they do. That card is just super awesome. It'll oftentimes Matriarch by itself can put your opponent into a spot where they have to block you because you know they've got the burn to the ground and you're just going to lose if you don't chump.
Excellent. Some of the other highlights, fun parts of the deck, if you will, are these main deck Bolt Spasms, a 3-1 uncommon from Hero Fall. Just one cost. One cost 3-1. Just comes down onto the board, immediately says, hey, have you got something? And Hex is very, very, very notorious for having very few 1 and 2 drops that have a very serious impact on the game. Never mind ones that you're willing to both put down and then eventually trade with the opponent, like Nerd, which is really the best term for a Bolt Spasm. This is just a beating Nerd. Uh, Also, some fun parts here is we've got some Rage Fires, which, with the escalation, allow you to deal with some bigger threats that aggro would normally have an issue with, because sometimes you see the opponent play, let's say, a 4-6 Crusader, and you're out of reach. You can't get rid of an X6. You just don't have any actions that deal that much damage. But if your Rage Fires are pumping up that well, you're in a better spot.
And you don't even need that much. Just getting up to X4 is
Yeah,
usually to kill a lot of things you want to kill.
yeah. I mean, you're generally winning turn 4 or 5 with this game, if not sooner. And you actually enable some of that with the Psychotic Anarchist. Most of the deck troops are speed. In fact, the Bolt Spasms are the only things that don't have speed. But your Psychotic Anarchists are here on turn 2 to not only help you damage your opponent early, but you both get to draw a card, and, if your aggro deck is going to win, it doesn't matter if you let your opponent draw some cards. That's generally the way aggro deals with drawing cards, is if we both draw a card, it's probably still going to be better for me, because your cards cost more than mine and do less than
Right.
mine at this point. The curve tops off with probably everybody's favorite card from this set, the Mama Yeti, which I just realized has a piece of equipment which is like a girdle for the Yeti. It's kind of interesting as I pull it up here. So this is a 5/5 speed crush troop that you can only include in your deck if you include a copy of Baby Yeti for each Mama Yeti you have. And naturally, there's 4 Baby Yetis as well. But the Mama Yeti is the highlight there. You are strictly running Baby Yetis because they give you a 5/5 for 4 Speed Crush Yeti to go alongside it. And
Yeah, we've seen Baby Yeti in some Ruby aggro decks before, but Mama Yeti feels like it's actually the right payoff that I'm looking for to play it in my deck.
exactly. And while the deck is highly susceptible to Hero Fall, it generally has a decent lineup against other decks, especially anything that's trying to get to turn 4 or 5 and turn its control on with things like, uh, the Silver Talon Adjudicator or, your Dark Hearts of Nilzon, those kind of control decks, this is going to have already won or lost the game at that point. But for the times where it doesn't, it has some reserves options, probably my favorite. You want to tell us what Riposte is in here for?
Sure, Reginald's Riposte will allow you to take away one of the opponent's extinctions for a turn. Would also be a way that you can take for the Ruby Mirror match. You can take away their burn and then use it against them as well too. So there's a lot of flexibility. It's sort of like a Ruby counter magic. It's sort of like a Ruby interrupt there, but not exactly, and sometimes even better.
Some of my favorite highlights of seeing this card used are taking the opponent's Transmogrifate and using it on a different troop of my own to protect either Matriarch or Mama Yeti. Same thing with Hero Fall. I have taken Psychic Ascension more than once with Reginald's Riposte, which is always a really fun one because now we, the control deck, we get to play the actions and do the things. The champion choice here, before we go too much farther into the reserves, is actually fairly notable, and I'm going to pull him up on the screen so we can all take a good look at Angus the Arsonist. So a triple Ruby charge power, which is fairly strict as far as thresholds go. 17 health, and he's got a giant flamethrower. Deal 4 damage to each opposing champion. Really just wants to burn down the world, and that's what he's going to be able to do. The low health pool, fairly justified, so that the mid-range decks have a chance. But that's the kicker here. Additionally, stacked with your burns, your rage fires, your bolts, your fireballs, you can actually beat an opponent entirely just by getting over their head with those kind of abilities. So if your opponent's drawing a whole lot of extra cards over you, we've got these Mind Pyres. This is for the Winter Moons, and what else would you bring this in against?
I think Winter Moon's the main one, but probably pretty good against the Diamond Sapphire deck as well. That deck tends to draw a lot of extra cards and not do a whole lot for a while. So anything like that where you're playing against control, usually pretty good.
Yep. For the mid-rangey board control style decks, we've got Lasgar's Vengeance, also fairly good against the other aggro decks. This 8-cost action gets cheaper every time it's in your hand and you attack with the troops, so especially with all of our troops having speed, you can get this down to a ridiculously low cost very quickly, and then it will deal 4 damage to each opposing champion and troop, which kills almost every card in the meta that you're going to be running up against as this list anyway. I hate to say so systematically that a single Crocosaur will generally beat this deck, but a single Crocosaur is probably going to beat this deck if that's the stabilizing turn. And Lasgar's Vengeance doesn't kill that guy, but you've probably already lost at that point. At least in a lot of cases. When your opponent's trying to gain health, we have the Emberspire Witch. Just a simple 2/2 for 2. Champions can't gain health. This is brought in, I would say, against the dinosaurs more than anything, the Succulent Crocodons.
For sure. Any opponent that's going to be packing dinosaurs, you probably want to bring in the Emberspire Witches.
It's also kind of an outlier for, I suppose, like a high Infinitrix style matchup, just to try to slow down their health gain for a single turn, or maybe even an off-meta Diamond Wild health gain deck. The biggest threats to this deck that I can think about are the vampires, the Vampire Prince, King, and Queen, and to tie those down, we have the final card in the reserves here, the Crimson Bolt. This gets rid of anything in the sky in the game that you would be able to target with an action anyway, which is a fantastic little card. 6 damage to any flying troop. This also is fairly important removal in a lot of matchups because this is quick, whereas the only quick removals we have in the main deck are the fireballs and the burns. So this matters for us in the matchups where Ragefire or Crackling Bolt might be too slow, and we want to put even more aggressive pressure on the opponent.
Right. Could be good, in addition to the vampires, good against the McBombus deck, which has a lot of the X2 flights. Anything where you're looking for the quick there is pretty good.
Awesome. Not a whole lot else to talk about. This is just your Ruby, slap them in the face kind of deck. Some notable exclusions, I suppose. really just come down to like burn to the grounds or any burn action, things that were cut for the sake of efficiency here. And again, you can tell that the main board is very susceptible to hero fall, but this is the kind of deck that is trying to beat a hero fall before a hero fall will matter. So yeah, you killed my hero. You've hero falled my Matriarch of Flames, but I still have a Mama Yeti, and hopefully that gets in there.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, but that's the name of the game. This deck, more than anything else, is about efficient rates. It's no frills. It's going straight to the face with as many cards as possible, especially in the main deck. And in the reserves, we got a few things. I actually like the reserve choices a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I was going to play Mono Ruby, I would probably do exactly what this person has done, because I really like Lasgar's Vengeance, especially as a reserve option, and all the rest of these make a ton of sense for what we have right now.
Awesome. So that'll wrap up our Ruby Aggro deck tech. We hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks for coming in and watching. This has been Nicholas Petrowski and Jason Burnett.
5 sharks.
5 sharks.